like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so today we are going deep on the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter.
A fascinating life for sure.
Absolutely. And we're not just going to stick to his time as president.
Oh yeah, way more to it.
We are talking his whole journey from those peanut farms all the way up to the global stage.
Definitely a story that goes beyond just those 4 years in the White House.
Exactly. And, we're working with some hot off the presses material here. A CBS News obituary that literally just came out today, December 29th, 2024.
Wow!
Yeah, unfortunately, the former president passed away at the incredible age of 100.
A century.
I know it makes you think about the scope of a life, like all the changes he saw, the impact. I mean, it's hard to even grasp.
It really is.
So are you ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to try to uncover what made Carter tick the highs and lows of his presidency and how he really made his mark after leaving the White House.
I'm really interested in that last part.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
It's a fascinating story, to say the least.
No doubt.
Most people wouldn't look at a peanut farmer and think, future president.
Right.
But Carter's path, it really was anything but conventional.
Yeah, from peanut farmer to nuclear submarine officer in the Navy.
I mean, come on.
You don't see that on too many resumes.
Not at all, let alone a presidential one.
And what's so interesting to me is that background actually helped him politically.
Oh, absolutely.
We were talking about that CBS obituary, and they pointed out that after Watergate,
Oh, yeah.
people were really craving authenticity.
Makes sense.
So America was disillusioned with the political establishment, and here comes Carter, representing a fresh start.
The outsider.
Yeah, someone who wasn't a typical Washington insider.
And he really leaned into that, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he campaigned on being an outsider.
Smart.
And people loved it.
I mean, he even walked in his inaugural parade.
Right, instead of riding in the limo.
Wow. What a powerful image.
It really was breaking with tradition.
And speaking of powerful images,
Yeah.
you can't talk about Carter without mentioning Rosalind.
Oh, of course.
That 77-year marriage. I mean, wow.
It's crazy.
It's incredibly rare to see that kind of lasting partnership, especially with all the pressure of politics.
Totally 7 decades.
It really says a lot about his character and his commitment.
I think it also humanizes him.
It does.
It shows this side of him that goes beyond just the political figure.
For sure. It reminds us that he was a husband, a father, a grandfather.
Yeah.
A man with deep personal connections.
And that adds another layer to understanding who he was as a president.
Definitely.
So let's move on a bit and talk about his presidency.
Okay.
So it's the late 70s, and America is facing some serious challenges.
Oh.
Energy crisis, inflation is skyrocketing, and the shadow of Vietnam is still hanging over everything.
Not an easy time to be president.
It really wasn't.
So how did he handle it?
Well, it wasn't exactly a smooth ride.
Yeah.
He inherited a country that was really in turmoil.
Yeah.
The public was deeply skeptical of the government.
And remember, he ran as that outsider.
Right, which helped him get elected.
But governing, it's a whole different ballgame.
It is. So are you saying that outsider status actually hurt him in Washington?
It definitely presented some challenges.
Like what?
Well, there's this story about how early in his presidency, he tried to schedule individual meetings with every single senator.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted to build those relationships.
Interesting.
But apparently it backfired. Some saw it as presumptuous.
Wow.
Like, who was this peanut farmer to tell them how to do things?
So even within his own party, he faced resistance.
Yeah, he often clashed with the Democratic establishment in Congress.
Making it even harder to get things done.
Exactly. Passing legislation became a real uphill battle.
But he still had some pretty big wins during his presidency.
You did. He had some notable achievements despite those challenges.
We can't forget about those.
We can't.
The creation of the Department of Energy and the Department of Education were major changes.
Huge structural changes.
And then the Panama Canal Treaty, returning control of the canal to Panama, was a bold move.
Definitely. And don't forget about establishing diplomatic relations with China.
You're right, these were all big steps on the world stage.
They were, even if they weren't always popular back home.
And it seems like those foreign policy achievements often get overshadowed by one major event.
You're talking about the Iran hostage crisis.
I am. It's undeniable that the hostage crisis, with 52 Americans held captive for over a year, really cast a shadow over his presidency.
It did.
The failed rescue attempt, the constant media attention, it created this sense of national trauma and frustration.
And of course, the timing of the hostages' release.
Oh man, the very day of Reagan's inauguration.
Talk about bad timing.
I know, it really cemented that image of Carter as a weak and ineffective leader, which, as we said, is just not the whole story.
It's a really oversimplified view of his time in office.
It is. We need to look at the complexities of his presidency.
Right, the context he was operating in.
But you're right that hostage crisis had a huge impact on public perception and, of course, on his re-election bid.
It did. You know, it's interesting how that national disappointment kind of set the stage for what I think is Carter's most remarkable chapter.
You mean his post-presidency?
I do.
Yeah.
It's like he channeled all that perceived defeat into something truly extraordinary.
Yeah, most former presidents, they kind of fade away,
Right. They write a memoir, hit the speaking circuit, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But Carter wasn't content with that.
Not at all. He had this drive, this burning desire to keep serving, to make a real difference in the world.
And boy, did he ever.
He did, and in ways that few people could have predicted.
He and Rosalind really dove headfirst into establishing the Carter Center.
Which has become this global force.
For peace, democracy, health initiatives. I mean, the list goes on.
It really does. And it wasn't just about lending his name to a good cause.
No.
They were really hands-on, involved in the day-to-day work, tackling these complex issues, mediating conflict.
Monitoring elections, building houses.
Building houses.
With Habitat for Humanity well into their 90s.
Can you imagine?
You see photos of them out there with hammers and nails, and it's not just for show.
No, they're genuinely committed to this work.
It's incredibly inspiring, and their efforts have had a tangible impact.
Without a doubt.
Like the near eradication of guinea worm disease.
That's a huge one.
It's a parasitic infection that used to affect millions of people.
Mostly in Africa.
And the Carter Center, through education sanitation programs, working with those communities.
They managed to bring those numbers down dramatically.
It's amazing, really a testament to the power of persistence collaboration,
And a focus on sustainable solutions.
Makes you wonder, though, could he have achieved this level of impact if he'd won a second term?
Interesting question.
Would he have had the same freedom to operate outside the constraints of the presidency?
It's hard to say, but being president comes with limitations, right?
Sure, political pressures, the constant scrutiny.
Maybe this path, the one he forged after the White House, allowed him to tap into his strengths in a different way.
And, his work didn't stop there. He continued to speak out on issues he cared about.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it meant controversy.
He never shied away from that.
Like his 2006 book, Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid.
Oh, yeah. That one stirred up quite a bit of controversy.
It did. Some accused him of being anti-Semitic.
He did later apologize for some of the language he used in the book.
He did. It's a reminder that even someone as revered as Carter wasn't immune to making mistakes.
Right, or using language that was hurtful.
But it also shows his willingness to engage in difficult conversations.
Absolutely, even if they were messy or unpopular.
He was a complex figure, no doubt.
For sure. But that complexity is part of what makes him so fascinating.
I agree. He didn't fit neatly into any box.
Nope, and he refused to be silenced on issues he believed in.
And it wasn't just about words. He was a man of action. A doer.
He got things done.
And he kept going even as he faced health challenges later in life.
Battling cancer those fall.
But he kept teaching Sunday school, kept working with the Carter Center.
His resilience was remarkable.
It really was. Like, he refused to let age slow him down.
And through it all, he had Rosalind by his side.
Until her passing just a few months before his...
ending their 77-year partnership.
Hard to imagine the weight of that loss.
It must have been devastating.
It speaks to the depth of their bond, though.
It does their shared commitment to each other and to the causes they believed in.
Their love story, it's an integral part of Carter's story, too.
Absolutely inseparable.
Earlier we were talking about Carter's background in nuclear science.
Right, and how it might have influenced his diplomacy.
I'm curious, what other threads do you see running through his life connecting the different chapters?
That's a good question. One thing that stands out to me is his faith.
Oh, yeah.
He was a devout Baptist, and that faith permeated everything he did.
His personal life, his political decisions, his humanitarian work.
It provided a moral compass for him,
A framework for understanding the world. It's interesting because he never shied away from talking about his faith.
Even in the world of politics.
Which is often pretty secular.
Right. It is. He saw no contradiction between his religious beliefs and his commitment to public service.
And I think that resonated with a lot of people.
It did. It wasn't about imposing his beliefs on others.
Right. It was about living authentically, letting his faith guide his actions.
It added another dimension to his public persona.
It also raises some interesting questions about the role of faith in public life.
Does it have a place in politics?
Or should the two remain separate?
That's a complex issue.
Yeah.
No easy answers there.
I agree. Carter himself navigated that tension throughout his career.
He did. He believed in the separation of church and state.
But he also recognized the power of faith to motivate and inspire.
It seems like it's about finding that balance.
Right. Respecting the boundaries, but acknowledging that faith can be a force for good.
Not about imposing one's beliefs on others.
But about using one's faith to guide one's actions.
To strive for a more just and compassionate world.
And I think Carter embodied that approach.
I think so too.
Looking at his life, it's hard not to be struck by the sheer scope of his accomplishments.
It's really incredible.
Farmer, naval officer, governor, president, Nobel Peace Prize laureate, humanitarian.
And he excelled in each of those roles.
It speaks to his intelligence, his adaptability, his work ethic.
It does. But beyond the accolades, what's truly remarkable is his commitment to service.
To making a difference in the lives of others.
Absolutely.
It's like he saw each chapter of his life as an opportunity to contribute.
To leave the world a little bit better than he found it.
And he did that in ways both big and small.
He really did.
And that's a legacy we can all learn from.
It is.
It's not about achieving fame or power.
It's about finding our own ways to make a positive impact.
To use our talents and resources to serve others. His story is a reminder that we all have something to offer.
We do.
That each of us can make a difference in our own way.
And that's a powerful message.
Especially in a world that can feel so overwhelming and cynical.
It can. So as we reflect on the life and legacy of Jimmy Carter, let's remember that we're not just passive observers.
We can be active participants in shaping the world we want to live in.
We can honor his memory by embracing that challenge.
By finding our own ways to contribute to a more just compassionate and peaceful world.
I love that idea.
And, while his life was filled with remarkable achievements,
It was.
there's one aspect that I think often gets overlooked.
Really? I'm curious. What's that?
It's his love of learning.
Oh, yeah.
Even in his later years, Carter was an avid reader, always seeking out new knowledge, new perspectives.
He was.
A student of history, science, theology. It's like his curiosity never faded.
You're right. That often gets overshadowed by all he accomplished.
It does. But that thirst for knowledge, that willingness to keep learning and growing, it's such a crucial part of who he was.
It really is. It speaks to a certain humility, too.
It does. He never assumed he had all the answers.
No, he was always open to new ideas, new ways of thinking.
And I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us.
Especially in a world that's constantly changing.
We have to stay curious, keep learning, be open to new possibilities.
Embrace that lifelong journey of discovery.
Just like Carter did.
Exactly. And that journey doesn't end when we leave school or retire.
It's something we carry with us throughout our lives.
That's a beautiful thought.
It's about cultivating a sense of wonder that keeps us engaged with the world.
I love that.
It's about approaching life with curiosity, with a desire to learn and grow.
To expand our horizons.
And I think Carter embodied that spirit perfectly.
He did. He was a man of action, but also a man of deep thought.
A man who valued knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, and that's a legacy worth celebrating.
Absolutely. As we continue to explore his life and legacy, let's keep that in mind. It's not just about what he did, but about how he approached the world.
With compassion, with curiosity.
And with a deep commitment to learning and growing.
He truly is an inspiration to us all.
It's amazing how Carter really redefined what it means to be a former president.
He did, didn't he?
He didn't just retire to a life of leisure or become a talking head on TV.
Not at all. He totally broke the mold.
It's like he saw leaving office not as an ending,
but as a new beginning.
Exactly, a chance to really pursue his passions and make a difference on a global scale.
He did. He took that platform he built as president.
And used it to amplify his message.
Of peace, justice, service.
It's almost like he had two presidencies.
Interesting way to put it.
One in the Oval Office and another out in the world fighting for human rights.
And tackling those global issues.
And that second presidency might actually be his most important legacy.
I think you're right. It's such a powerful model for leadership, beyond just holding office.
It challenges us to think about, what we can do to contribute.
Even after we've stepped down from positions of power.
And it's a challenge to current and future leaders.
It is. What are you going to do with your platform, with your influence?
Carter set a pretty high bar.
He did. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, whether it was building houses or mediating conflicts.
He led by example, showing that real leadership isn't about titles.
Or accolades.
Right. It's about service and dedication to something bigger than yourself.
And he did it all with such humility and grace.
It's really remarkable.
Of course, he wasn't without his critics.
Of course not.
Some people thought he was too idealistic
Too naive.
for the world of politics.
There was this idea that he was just too nice to be an effective leader.
I've heard that before.
But maybe that's what we need more of.
More nice.
Leaders who are guided by principles.
Who are willing to stand up for what they believe in.
Even if it means losing an election.
It's a radical idea, isn't it?
It is, to put people and principles above power and partisanship.
But Carter showed us that it's possible.
He might not have always succeeded.
But he never stopped trying to do what he thought was right.
And that's a powerful legacy.
It is. It reminds us that we can all choose to be forces for good in the world.
No matter our position or circumstances.
Right, we can all strive to embody those qualities that defined Carter's life.
Compassion, integrity, that unwavering dedication.
Absolutely. And speaking of choices, one thing that always impressed me about Carter was his commitment to lifelong learning.
He was always reading, always learning.
Even in his later years,
He was a student of history, science, theology.
his curiosity never seemed to fade.
And that's a reminder to all of us.
Learning doesn't stop when we graduate.
Or retire. It's a lifelong journey.
It really is. One that enriches our lives and helps us engage with the world in more meaningful ways.
It's about staying curious, staying open to new ideas.
Never losing that sense of wonder and possibility.
Carter really embodied that.
He did.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life and legacy of Jimmy Carter,
I'm feeling inspired.
me too, I'm filled with this sense of admiration and respect.
He's an amazing man.
He defied expectations, challenged the status quo, and dedicated his life to making the world a better place.
He wore so many hats. Farmer, naval officer, governor, president, Nobel Peace Prize winner, humanitarian.
Like, beyond all those titles?
He was a man of deep faith, unwavering principles, and an incredible commitment to service.
His story is truly an inspiration to us all.
It is.
And his legacy challenges us to live lives of purpose.
To strive for peace and justice.
And to never underestimate the power of one person to make a difference.
It's been an honor talking about his journey with you.
It has. I hope everyone listening is feeling inspired to make a positive impact on the world.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making the world a better place.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.